Hi there, welcome to Big Dream Crochet. I'm Olivia and today I'm going to share the results of my second ever crochet market that I've done. It was just this past weekend and I want to tell you all about my experience, how much I made, what sold, what didn't, all that kind of stuff. So before we get started, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss any of my next videos. I'm very much a new crochet vendor. I just started doing markets this past July. That was my very first market a couple months ago. And so now the market that I had just this weekend on Saturday, this was my second ever market and it was a fall themed market. It definitely went different than I thought it was going to. So let me give you all the information that I had about the market. It was a one-day market, just from 9 to 4, and there were 150 vendor spots open. And the market usually attracts about 2,500 to 3,000 people. So those were the facts that I had about the market before. Also, it's been going on for about 10 years now. This year was the 11th annual market. And it was also at a high school put on by one of the booster groups for one of the clubs. The club had an event going on, and in addition to the event, they also had vendors and concessions, that kind of stuff. That's all the information that I got concerning the market. That's what I knew about it, signing up for it. And so I expected, with 150 vendors there, that there was going to be a lot of people, because obviously there's a need for 150 vendors. That was my impression of why there was 150 vendors. Because of that number of vendors, I was anticipating there being a ton of people there. I mean, the event organizer told me herself that there was going to be 2,500 to 3,000 people. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is a huge market. At least it's huge for me, because my very first market ever was in an empty parking lot and like maybe 30 people showed up. Yeah, so that one was really dead. And so now I'm coming into this market being like, wow, this has like 100 times the amount of vendors that, well, not 100 times the amount, but this has way more vendors than my last market did, and it attracts about 2,500 to 3,000 people. So I was anticipating a very, very busy day, and it wasn't. So, I mean, there were some parts where it was busy, but let me just kind of walk you through the day and I'll explain as we go. So I show up to the market. The market was about an hour away, so I had to leave my house at like 6 a.m. to get set up and like get there on time and all of that. And so I get set up. My dad came with me, and so he was helping me set up and unload the car and all of that, and getting set up was no problem. And I got done setting up about an hour before the market started. Now, because there was 150 vendors who also were setting up at that time, I wanted to make sure that I got there super early, just in case there was any traffic or any, I don't know, things going wrong. I wanted to get there early so that way I knew that I had plenty of time to get set up and just ready to go for the market. And so we get set up and the market starts, and 5 minutes into the market, I make a sale. Yay, yeah, so I was very excited about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, today's gonna be a great day for my market, for sales. Yes, very, very excited. And so from the hours of 9 to 11:30, that's when I made the most sales. I was making a sale like every 10 minutes, sometimes even every 5 minutes. So that was the best time for me. I was very busy, and I was like, man, if the market continues like this all day, that would be amazing. I'm gonna hit all of my goals, and it would just be a very exciting and successful day. But once it hit 11:30, that's when it started taking like an hour to make a sale. So I would only make like 1 or 2 sales per hour. And it was like that until the end of the market, basically. So from 11:30 to 4, I was making maybe 1 or 2 sales per hour. I think it did pick up a little bit like around 3 o'clock, which was an hour before the market would have been over, and I did make a couple sales there. But other than that, once it hit 11:30, I was like, well, I'm kind of like done for the day. Like it just, I wasn't making nearly as many sales as I was in the first 2.5 hours of the market. And I'm not exactly sure why that was. If anything, I was anticipating it being slower, but it was the opposite actually. So once it hit 11:30, that was pretty much it for the majority of the sales that I made that day. Yeah, it was definitely still like a good learning experience for me. It's a good experience in general, you know, just being able to take pictures and, you know, just get information on like what things sell, what do my customers want, who are my customers, all that kind of stuff. But the market was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. So anyways, that's kind of like the general overview. I'm going to talk about some more specific things about like what went wrong with my market, like why I didn't perform as well as I was hoping to perform. I'll be talking about some of that later, but I want to tell you now what my profits were, what items actually sold, and what items didn't sell, all that kind of stuff. So let's get into that. Okay, so I have my little notes right here with all of the information about all the sales I made, the amount, that kind of thing. Okay, so overall during the entire 9 to 4 p.m. time slot of the market, I made 22 sales, and those 22 sales equaled about $380. The $383 is like my overall amount, not accounting for taxes and all of that. So take about like $38 off of that, and that will be about my profit from that. Yeah, I made about $383, which is better than I did at my last market. So I'm very happy about that. I'm glad that I at least beat my profit from last market. And last market, I made about $300 over the span of 2 days. So for this market, I made $380 over the span of 1 day. So I feel like that's definitely some improvement. I am happy about that. I'm glad that I at least beat what I made at my last market. Now, if you have watched my previous video about everything that I prepared for this market, so I showed like everything that I made, just what I was thinking, what I was feeling about this market, all of that. If you haven't watched that video yet, definitely go and do that. You'll get even more background information on what I prepared for this market, and you'll know exactly what items I'm talking about when I read this list off to you in a second. Not too bad, but I definitely wanted to do better. In my last video, I explained my good, great, and fantastic goals that I have. So I had 3 goals to help me measure the success of my market, to see just kind of like where the results land on just a personal scale of what I felt like was success for me. So I had a good goal, and that good goal was if I made $500 at my market, because I wanted to try and double the amount that I made from my last market. And so I didn't hit my good goal, which is definitely disappointing. I was hoping that I would at least hit the good goal and maybe even go for my great goal, but you know, this market was just very unexpected. There were just a lot of unexpected things and about the market that I think definitely played into how well I did at the event. So yeah, that's how much I made overall. Now let's talk about all of the items that actually did sell and what my best sellers were. I had 22 sales overall, and then I actually sold 29 items. So of those 29 items, they were 3 bees, one of which was my big bee. I sold 2 velvet headbands, 1 ghost, 4 chickens, 2 mini whales, 3 pumpkins, 2 mini octos, 1 leggy frog, 2 bear beanies, 4 pickles, one of which was a big pickle, 4 faux fur scrunchies that I made, and 1 velvet scrunchie. So altogether, those were 29 items that I did sell. My best sellers were obviously the chickens and the pickles. I'm very glad that one of the big pickles sold too. It was sold to a girl. She had some other crochet plushies from other booths, and I could tell that she really loved crochet plushies. And when she saw the big pickle, she's like, I just have to have the big pickle. So yeah, it's definitely, you can see that the majority of the sales that I made were plushies, which isn't surprising. Plushies, I feel, generally sell well at markets because they're just so cute. Who can resist them? And they make good gifts, and you know, kids like them, and you know, the adults will buy them for the kids, or the adults will buy them for themselves. I mean, who can resist such a cute plushie? So I'm not surprised that the majority of the things that sold for me were plushies, but I do wish more of my like fashion accessory stuff did sell, because that's what I enjoy making a lot more. Yeah, but I'm not surprised. This was how it was at my last market too. The majority of the stuff that I sold was plushies, even though I did have a lot of other stuff that was not plushies. Yes, my best sellers though were the chickens. Those are the Mabel chickens, and then the pickles, which I did label the pickles as emotional support pickles. That's what their little tag said. And I got so many laughs from that. People coming into my booth just to look at the pickles because they saw the sign like as they were walking by. And it definitely did make a couple sales, just having the sign alone there, making people laugh. And I would say, oh, it's for mental health, you know, it's just gonna make you smile more. So yes, that's definitely, if you're selling pickles, put the emotional support pickle tag on them because people like it. But yeah, so that's everything that sold at my market. Now there are a couple things that I am surprised didn't sell. My AirPod pouches that I made, those did not sell. We were looking at them and liked them, but they didn't get them. And also, I'm almost upset that these ones didn't sell because the pumpkins that I made, as you heard from the list that I just read you, only 3 pumpkins sold at my market. Only 3, and they were like one of my cheapest items in there because I made them on my knitting machine and they just didn't really take that long to make. Yeah, only 3 of them sold. Do you know how many I made? 30. I made 30 knitting machine pumpkins because this was a fall harvest vendor boutique. So I'm assuming that a lot of people there who would come are shopping for fall because it was a fall themed market. And so I made plenty of pumpkins because they were cheap. I figured they were going to be a hit because it's, you know, pumpkin season right now, and they weren't very expensive. So I was anticipating that they were going to be my best seller. So that's why I made 30 of those pumpkins. But now I have 27 pumpkins, and I'm like, I don't have another market that I'm doing during like the fall season. My next one is in December. So I'm like, oh, okay, these pumpkins will have to wait for next year, or I'm gonna have to figure out something to do with them. But I'm like, oh, and also another thing that didn't sell was my knitting machine beanies that I made too. I didn't sell any of those, which I was just so surprised because again, they, you know, it was the cheapest beanie that I offered and still no takers, which I'm so sad about. I'm like, oh, they were so cute too. I don't know. I just really don't know. I was surprised that my bees sold as well as they did. I sold 3 bees, one of which was my big bee that I made. I'm so happy that one went to a good home. But at my last market, nobody bought any of the bees that I made. Just nobody was interested in them. They didn't even look at them as they were coming through my booth. So I was very surprised that I sold 3 bees, and that's like second place to my best sellers. So yeah, that was surprising. The people there definitely were familiar with the crochet bee trend. They've probably seen them online or just at other markets and things like that. But yeah, I was glad that they bought a bee from me and that I got rid of some of my bees because I thought I was going to have a hard time selling them just based off of how my last market went with nobody buying any. So yeah, I was surprised about that. That was great. And I was surprised about the pickles too, just because I didn't know there was that big of a market for pickles, for emotional support pickles to be exact. So yeah, that was definitely some positive surprises that happened throughout the day of the market. All right, I think that's about it for everything I want to talk about for the results, what sold, how much I made, all of that. Now I kind of want to talk you through what I think went wrong with this market, why I didn't perform as well as I was hoping to, as well as I was anticipating performing. So when I was talking to the coordinator of the market, I had emailed her beforehand just to ask for more information about the market and all of that. This was before I even signed up for the market. And I was under the impression that this was a handmade market, or a market that was mainly handmade, like most of the vendors there handmade all of their products. But it was actually the opposite, basically. I feel like I was one of the only booths in the entire 150 vendors there that actually made their products. So pretty much, I was in one row of vendors, like in the middle of the high school gym, and there was one row in front of me too. And pretty much the booth that was next to me, in front of me, and on the side of me, they were all resellers. So they were all vendors who purchased stuff online to sell. So they didn't actually make any of their products. They just ordered it online, changed the price, and then are selling it now. And that's definitely not the market that I feel like I will do best in, because my products are handmade and my prices reflect them being handmade. And those were the three vendors that were like next to me, across from me, and then on the other side. And further down the way, it was just more people reselling stuff pretty much around the whole gym. Once I started looking around, they were just reselling. And I'm like, oh, I did not know that this was gonna be a majority reselling market. With the majority of the market being people who are reselling, whether it be clothes or some kind of food product that they bought online through some kind of bigger company. There were a couple MLMs there, specifically LuLaRoe, which I was very surprised about that, because here in Washington, there was a big lawsuit against LuLaRoe that led to LuLaRoe's downfall. There's a whole documentary is it on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu? It's on one of those streaming platforms, and it's really interesting. And Washington, which is where I am, had one of the bigger lawsuits about that. So I was very surprised to see a LuLaRoe consultant at that market. And there was a really big Scentsy booth, and just like there were a lot of MLMs there, which I was like, my stuff does not fit in there with the MLMs and other people who are like reselling things that they bought from the thrift store. It's definitely one thing if you buy things from the thrift store and then upcycle them, like you turn it into something else. I would say that is definitely a handmade craft, because you probably sew it and add other kinds of crafty things to it to upcycle something. But what this group was selling was just clothes straight off the rack from a thrift store or something like that. I don't know. It was not the ideal market for a handmade business. While there were a majority of resellers at that market, I would say it was probably like 70% resale people, there were a couple other handmade booths, and they were also fiber artists like myself. You know, I love meeting other fiber artists and I love connecting with them. I mean, my entire platform on YouTube and on Instagram is all about connecting with fiber artists, because I love to, you know, meet people who share the same passion as me. And at this market, the majority of the handmade booths were other fiber artists. So actually on like, here's my cat. I'm sure you can see her. She loves to be in my YouTube videos. She likes it. So on like one booth away from me, so not the booth that was directly next to me, but the one after that, that one was a booth of someone selling yarn and all that. I don't know if the yarn was handmade or not, but they also had other like crochet and knit items in there. I don't know, I didn't get a chance to like look around each booth personally just because I was manning my booth the entire time. And so there was someone selling fiber arts like one space away from me, and then on the back side of me, the booth that was next to me but on the back side, on both sides of me, one of them sold only crochet beanies, crochet and knit beanies, and then the other one was a crochet specific booth. Okay, so already I have 3 booths that are competition just in my row. You know, I feel like as a market coordinator, you need to limit the number to probably like 3 different sellers for the same items, like 3 fiber arts sellers, because if it's overpopulated with fiber arts, it's not going to be successful for anybody who's selling there. So definitely the placement didn't help, because just in my row alone, I was competing with 3 other vendors who were selling similar things to what I was selling. And so I do wish that I could have been in a different spot. I could have been in a different part of the market. I feel like that might have helped a little bit, but I don't know. Just with 4 vendors all in the same area selling really similar things, how do you compete with that? You know, I don't know. And I feel like having a lot of different vendors of the same thing can give the customers, like, it can make them overwhelmed by the amount of choices that they have. Like, well, I could buy something from this booth or that one, and they all sell the same item, so which one do I buy? And, you know, I feel like for a lot of people who attend those markets, they're not going to be making like complicated business decisions like that. They're just gonna go with whatever's the cheapest or the closest, whichever one is more convenient for them, or they're just not gonna decide at all because it's too much to have to pick between all these different choices of the same item. So I definitely think that aspect of the market had a lot to do with why it didn't perform as well as I was hoping. Lastly, okay, so we've talked about reselling and how that might have impacted my sales as a handmade booth, and then we talked about having too many crochet or fiber arts vendors and how that could have impacted my sales. Now let's put the 2 and 2 together and make the last item of why I think my market results were not as great as I was hoping them to be. I was competing with multiple people actually, who were reselling crochet. So if you are a part of the crochet community or have been for a while, or maybe follow a lot of people who are crochet vendors themselves, you have probably heard them talk a little bit about crochet. Well, I just call them fake crochet vendors, because either they're selling crochet items that they bought online and are just reselling them. So that means that either the items that they bought, they did not make themselves. So they either bought them from someone who is working in poor working conditions and is not fairly compensated for the amount of effort and time that goes into actually crocheting an item. We all know that crochet cannot be replicated by a machine. So anything crochet that you see, someone's hands made that. So they're either selling items from someone who is not fairly compensated for their work, or they're selling fake crochet, which is actually knit made to look like crochet. There are certain stitches that the knitting machines can do look like crochet, you know, to an unsuspecting customer, maybe someone who's not, you know, an expert in fiber arts or does a lot of fiber arts, you would never know. But, you know, as a fiber artist, you know, a lot of us can see, wait a second, that's not actually crochet. That's knit that is made to look like crochet. Still, there's ethical concerns with how they got those products. You know, it's either you're supporting like poor working conditions and unfair wages for the people who are actually making these products, or you're promoting fake crochet, which I feel undermines the entire craft and just is, that's problematic in its own. And then, you know, like trying to pass off someone's work as your own, it is not right. And especially as someone who crochets everything themselves, you know, everything I sold at that market I made with my own 2 hands, my own hooks, yarn that I bought. And it's just like the fact that someone's just trying to really like capitalize off of the craft. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing business, but you know, to pass off lookalikes or unethically sourced materials as your own, trying to say that it's handmade, I just feel like there's a lot wrong with that. Yeah, that was just so disappointing to see them there and to have to deal with that. I know that a lot of other crochet vendors deal with the same problem. We see people reselling crochet products that they bought online or that are unethically sourced. They're just not handmade. Or it's not crochet, you know, it's actually knit. I know that that is something that crochet vendors deal with. So if you have an experience with that, definitely share it in the comments below, because yeah, I don't know, it just really baffles me to see how prevalent, you know, this is. Yeah, those are the things that I think went wrong with my market. And so there are going to be a couple things that I will be doing differently in the future. Now, just as a customer, someone who loves to buy handmade products, I will always be asking the vendor who's selling them, what's your process like? Did you make them yourselves? How much time did this item take to make? You know, you really want to make sure that what you're buying is actually handmade if you're at some kind of handmade craft show market. I just feel like that goes without saying that it should be, but you know, it's just sometimes it doesn't happen that way. And that's what I'll be doing as a customer going forward. But as a crochet vendor, I will definitely be vetting the market organizer a bit beforehand, because I want to avoid being at markets where there is too many of the same booth. So if they're gonna pick 10 people to sell crochet items, that's not a market I want to be a part of. I want to be in a market that has less competition for me and maybe more of a wide variety of other kinds of crafts there, not 10 booths of the same craft. So I will definitely ask them about how they pick people, like how they pick vendors to be in their show, and also how many vendors of the same craft do they usually pick, you know, if it's a juried event, that kind of thing. So I'll definitely be asking them about that, and I will be asking them if they allow resellers in their market and what kinds of resellers they have there. Yeah, just I realized that reselling, if a market is mainly made up of people who are reselling items, I don't want to be there, because that's not what my craft is, and my craft and my prices are not going to fit in with the rest of people who are reselling. So I definitely want to stay away from mainly reselling markets. Yeah, I will definitely be doing those things differently. And honestly, this time at my market has kind of got me thinking about exactly what my niche is when it comes to selling crochet items. So as you may have seen in my last video, with everything that I made, I have a good variety of items. I have plushies, but I also have, you know, wearables, accessories, bags. I do have a wide variety of things, and I'm wondering if maybe that's why I'm losing sales, because the customers coming into my booth are maybe overwhelmed with the variety of items that I have. If maybe I need to pick a niche and just make various items within that niche. I don't know, because I know that like beanies and hats, that's a popular like fiber arts niche. It could be knitting or crocheters that only sell beanies or hats and things like that. Or there's a lot of crocheters who only sell plushies, and I'm not much of a plushy crocheter. I definitely prefer fashion and wearable things. If I did do wearables, you know, all my stuff would be way more unique. I hardly ever see crochet vendors who sell like tops and things like that, just because they take more time, and if they take more time, they would be more expensive, so the price points would be higher. So I don't know if I want to do that. Should I just do crochet bags? I mean, crochet bags haven't been a hit for me at really any of my markets so far. I didn't sell one crochet bag at this last market. At my first market, I sold 2 crochet bags, so I don't know. But I just feel like after going to that market, I have the desire to be unique and to just stand out from all of the other crocheter or knitting booths that are there. Like, I just want to be unique and, you know, not get lost in the crochet vendor market. I know that there is a lot of the crochet vendors and knitting vendors. I love that. I love seeing that other people are passionate about the same craft I am, but you know, it's also, I have to do business as well and see how I can, you know, make items that are going to be profitable for me and to not lose out on sales because my items are too similar to someone else's. So I don't know, it just got me thinking a lot about that. I'm not going to make any changes for my upcoming market in December. I'm just going to keep everything the way it is, and in the new year, that is when I will pick a niche. Hopefully in the future, I will have a better market experience. I feel like I just haven't found a market that is for me yet, that is for my business, and you know, a market that I will consistently do well on. I just don't think I found that yet. So I'll just keep looking and keep doing it. I love doing markets, you know, and it's always a good learning experience, regardless if, you know, you have the best market ever, the worst market ever, or a mediocre market. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are interested in crochet markets. And so I hope that this video gave you some insight into how some markets can go for crocheters. Don't let this discourage you. This is just my experience. Not everyone's experience is like this, but I'm, you know, happy to share what my experience is like, because I know that a lot of other people might have the same experience or will have it in the future. So yeah, I just hope that you found this video useful. But yeah, that's about it. Make sure that you like this video. If you liked this video, definitely comment down below your experiences with markets, just in general as a crocheter, or if you especially have an experience with someone selling fake crochet, please share that down in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe too, so you don't miss out on my next video. As I said before, I do have one more market this year, and I will be sharing information about that too. You guys are going to come along on my journey with me as I do my last market of the year. And I also put out crochet tutorials, fiber arts tutorials, just any crochet content. That's what I do. So if you're interested in that, don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. All right, bye.